It's Monday, March 2nd, 2020. We no doubt are living in amazing times. We are living in historical times. And all of us got to witness history today as the Dow Jones closes up nearly 1,300 points. We got another example of the massive manipulation that is taking place in these markets as the Federal Reserve now is in these markets buying. The Federal Reserve injecting another $55 billion of liquidity into the repo market. The plunge protection team working feverishly around the clock, 24 hours a day to keep this whole Ponzi scheme propped up. Take a good look around as the market was up nearly 1,300 points today. Look at what's happening to airlines. Look what's happening to the auto sector, the auto industry. Look what's happening to retail. Look at what's happening to manufacturing. Look what's happening to the U.S. farmers. Look what's happening to coal production. Look what's happening to steel production. The list goes on and on and on. We can even go and say, look what's happening to shale and fracking. The industries here in America are getting devastated, destroyed. We look at what's happening to industry around the world. Look at freight. Shipping all around the world is down. Right here, Class 8 truck inventory at all-time highs. Shipping is down, a bellwether to what is happening. And this didn't just start. This has been going on for months and months and months. And now you add this infection, more people dying today, yet the market goes up. Bad news seems to be good news for these markets. But at the end of the day, we know the buyer of last resort is the Federal Reserve. And the Fed is in these markets buying massively. We're told that the U.S. economy is strong. We're told that the U.S. consumer is strong. I was out this weekend and I looked at the U.S. consumer. They weren't on car lots looking to buy cars. I probably drove by 12, 13 car lots. They were empty. They had a lot of automobiles, a lot of SUVs. They were literally parked on top of one another, but there was nobody walking the lots. I drove by a couple RV dealerships. Nobody. The RVs are literally parked 12 inches apart. You can barely walk between them. There's so much inventory between SUVs, cars, RVs. Nobody is at the dealerships looking at vehicles. And we actually went over to an Ashley furniture store this weekend, and when I walked in, you're literally almost attacked now if you go to a auto dealer or to a furniture store because everybody's trying to make a sale. You walk in, they're all over you. And so as we walk through Ashley Furniture, which is a national retail chain, the gentleman, the salesperson, told me that they will finance any piece of furniture in there. So if you want to buy this couch, sofa, or a kitchen table, Ashley Furniture will finance it for 6 years, 3 months. I was shocked. I asked him how many people that come in here that actually buy something, how many buy it outright versus finance. He told me 50% of the people that make a purchase finance it. So 50% of the people that at least go to the Ashley out here in my area are financing their furniture. So, is the U.S. consumer really that strong when they have to finance a kitchen table for 6 years and 3 months? When the U.S. consumer now is financing automobiles for 8 years? This is where we're at in America, and I don't have a very, very good feeling about where we are going. So, as supply chains break, as factories close down, as this infection continues to spread around the world, are we really ready as a country to deal with a situation like this? The U.S. consumer is broke. The U.S. consumer is not strong. The U.S. consumer is in bad physical health. We have a population now where a majority now of Americans are obese. So here we are in America, broke, overweight, slow, asleep, and we have a couple situations among us. We've got this infection, and we have a economic collapse closing in on America. Two very serious situations. Is the American people, are the American people really prepared to deal with the collapse? Are they prepared to deal with this infection? We got some real big trouble coming to America, and it's right here, right now, knocking at the door. Panic buying sends Dow to best point gain ever on hopes of intervention. This is what it's all about. Look, these markets don't care about manufacturing, auto sales, retail sales. They don't care about a global depression. These markets care about the next intervention by the Federal Reserve. Look, a half-point cut is coming. Multiple cuts are coming. We're going to zero, and quite possibly we are going negative. Bank of Japan bought tons of ETFs overnight to lift Japanese stocks. The People's Bank of China performed miracles, lifting Chinese stocks amid collapsing PMIs. The IMF promised help. And then Friday, we had Jerome Powell, Larry Kudlow, and Steve Mnuchin come out. Also, the president been coming out for a long time, wanting an emergency rate cut. This president wants negative rates. This is going to absolutely collapse the middle class. It's quite possibly going to collapse what's left of America. But all this nonsense going on. Last night, I'm watching Dow futures down over 500 points. Today, the Dow closes at 1,293 points in the green. That's 1,850 points off overnight lows. Look, the saver in America is getting punished. The elite, the 1% at the very top, are getting rewarded, while the middle class, the lower middle class, and the poor are being absolutely obliterated. Do you really think negative rates or 0% rates are going to help you or help me? Absolutely not. It's going to help corporate America. It's going to help the 1%. It's going to help the 0.0001%. It's not going to help you or I. And it's going to cause massive debt, and it's going to enslave more people. Look, half or more of this country is already debt slaves. We're going to have more debt slaves than we're going to know what to do with when we go to zero, let alone negative rates. 80% of this country is living paycheck to paycheck right now. You are going to be literally paying the bank to have a savings account at your bank. Do you understand? You are going to be paying them to hold your money. And many people are doing that already because they don't even have that much money in the bank. And when you pay the service fees, the overdraft protection, you're literally losing money every month to the bank. Add inflation to that, it's a disaster. Wolfstreet.com, how bad is it going to get for U.S. airlines? This whole situation coming out of China now is costing the airlines billions of dollars. Americans right now are starting to cut domestic travel. Countless conferences have been canceled. Ask yourself right now, who would get on an airplane? I wouldn't. Most of you probably wouldn't. My good friend, his wife is actually leaving for Europe tomorrow, traveling for a few weeks. And it's absolutely insanity that anybody would get on a fly international with what is going on right now. That is really dangerous. Let's look at some of the airline stocks. They are way down. We look at the numbers since January 18th. Delta down 27%, Southwest down 17%, United down 35%, American down 36%, Alaskan Air Group down 26%, JetBlue down 21%, and Spirit Airlines down 37%. Yet Dow Jones up 1,300 points today. We can thank the Federal Reserve. They're already intervening as I speak. Zero hedge today, losing $1 billion a month. No rebound in sight amid global shipping slump. American seaports are now starting to feel the chilling effects of supply chain disruptions from China. Long Beach, 2 hours from where I'm making this video, the second largest containerized port in the U.S. is experienced weakness in volume, down 6% year over year in January and down 6% year over year in February. We could see a decline of 12% for the quarter year over year. And this is just the beginning. Where are we going to be? If this situation in China does not get resolved immediately, where is this all going to be in a week, 2 weeks, 4 weeks? Cargo owners and shipping lines are desperate for a resolution that will see Chinese factories resume production. Right now, China is paralyzed. And we should all learn a valuable lesson here. We should not be dependent on other countries. Globalism is not working out for America. The worst case scenario may now be playing out. China's paralyzed. We're not getting products shipped to America. What about pharmaceuticals, medicine? You know, if you're a person dependent on pharmaceuticals, I'd be a little bit nervous right now. And again, we need to learn a very valuable lesson here. We need to be making and manufacturing our own things right here in America. We should be making our own pharmaceuticals right here in America, not dependent on a communist regime making our medicine for us. I mean, this really puts us in a very vulnerable position in many ways. You know, if the store shelves go empty, what do you think is going to happen? You know, we look at over the weekend, Costco. I saw Costco's all over the country. 500 people in line waiting to get in before they open. If things really got crazy, you would see not 500, you would see 5,000 people at the front door of Costco before they open, waiting. And Costco would be wiped out within an hour. There would be nothing left. And so we really need to take a look at what's happening and really learn a valuable lesson here. We should not be, as Americans, dependent on a foreign country, let alone a communist regime, for products, for pharmaceuticals. And you, as an individual, should not be dependent on these stores if an emergency lets loose. This is why it's so important to be preparing, topping off preparations, so that you're not waiting in a line of 5,000 people to get a case of water. There were Walmarts where people were fighting over a case of water this weekend. This is why it's important to be preparing, so you don't have to wait in the line, so you don't have to deal with the violence, so you don't get contaminated with some infection. This is why we prepare now, so that we don't have to put ourselves out into a dangerous situation. So I think, if anything, we should learn a very valuable lesson with what is taking place right now, with what you are watching take place right now at the Costco's, at the Walmarts. It's important to be preparing. Zero hedge today. Global manufacturing PMI crashes to weakest since 2009. The global manufacturing sector suffered its steepest contraction since 2009 as demand, international trade, and supply chains were severely disrupted. You know, we can't blame everything on an infection. The blame is going to go to the massive debt, the massive bubbles, the massive debt creation that has taken place here in America. Now, this infection could be the catalyst that sets off the whole collapse. Could possibly be. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But at some point, there will be a catalyst that is going to set off the economic collapse here in America. I don't know if this is it. It could be. We're going to find out. But it may be something else down the road. But at some point, the economic collapse is going to be set off because of the massive debt, the massive dependency on other countries for goods and services. So whether it's this infection or whether it's something else, you need to be preparing for the inevitable. And the inevitable is this: a global economic crash is coming, and a massive economic crash is coming to the U.S. Market U.S. Manufacturing PMI fell from 51.9 to 50.7. It's the third straight month of declines here in the U.S. New order growth slowed to 9-month lows. What happens, and this is the question, what happens when demand slows down? Okay? What happens when people aren't leaving their house? They're not getting in their cars, they're not driving to resorts, and they're not going to conferences, they're not going to baseball games, they're not going to football games, they're not going to restaurants, they're not shopping at the malls. What is going to happen when the demand slows down? And what's going to happen when the layoffs hit America? Look, things are going to slow down. Businesses are going to have to make cuts. People are going to be losing jobs. And that means demand is going to slow down. People are not going to be shopping, whether it's because of the threat and the danger of this infection, or because people are going to be getting laid off now because of these factory closures in China, where now people are going to be laid off at these businesses here in the U.S. See, it's all interconnected. So, if Nike can't make gym shoes, well, what about the people that sell them here? they're going to get laid off. You look at semiconductors, you look at people in the technology field. If you don't get chips and semiconductors, then we're not going to have the electronics here. So electronic companies will start laying off people. Everything is interconnected. So if we can't make stuff overseas, if the supply chains break, the factories close, then that means the people over here, the people that sell it, the people that put it together, they're not gonna have a job. It's all connected. The fundamentals of the US economy remain strong. Here's some of the verbiage I hear out there. The fundamentals of the US economy remain strong. There's some risk, but I think the U.S. outlook looks pretty good. Here's another one. I think it pays to be patient. So when we hear about, the politicians, we hear about people in the Federal Reserve speaking all this, then I ask you this. If this is true, if the fundamentals of the U.S. economy remain strong, if the risk is very low, if we need to be patient, how come we will be cutting rates this month? How come we will be cutting a half point if all this is true? Because none of this is true. Here's another article today. Make sure you do your due diligence. Visa slashes Q2 revenue outlook by 2.5 to 3.5% on lower Asia travel. Microchip pulls guidance. Here's another one. CNBC. I guess this is what the markets are really excited about. China's factory activity slumps in February. Weakest reading on record, private survey shows. Now remember, China is the second biggest economy. You could argue maybe even the biggest economy. They make everything. But again, I guess this is what got the market so excited today to go up 1,300 points, an 1,850 point turnaround from last night. Many of the networked system that we depend on, like banking and finance, are some of the most fragile, the most susceptible to dangerous disorder. Just look how fast wealth in the stock market was vaporized. How safe are these things when all the advanced nations are so deep in massive debt that they're never going to be able to meet their obligations? It's a matter of time before the derivatives start blowing up. We haven't heard anything about derivatives for a very, very long time. We look at Deutsche Bank, we look at JP Morgan, and the amount of massive derivatives that they're holding. How about Deutsche Bank? We don't even hear anything about Deutsche Bank right now, a ticking time bomb. As the money injections begin to lose their potency, it's a matter of time before people begin to lose faith in the money, faith in the system, and then we have a very dangerous situation on our hands. Isn't it amazing how many people say, you're crazy, doom and gloom, you're paranoid, this could never happen, and yet you saw thousands of people out this weekend fighting over a case of water, fighting over canned food, lining up at Costco. So it's good to see that a few people are actually using their brains and starting to think a little bit for themselves. But I want to say this. Most people, it's already too late for. They're not ready. It is already too late for most people. If you're watching this video and you're not prepared, it may already be too late. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be preparing. Take every day. Look, maybe this whole thing blows over and this won't be the catalyst to the collapse. And I pray that it isn't. That means that you bought some time. Because at the end of the day, one thing is for sure, the debt bubbles will pop. Every bubble pops. We have massive, massive debt bubbles here in America, and they are going to pop. Whether the catalyst is going to be the infections or some other entity, they are going to pop. So look, I'm not telling anybody not to start preparing. If you haven't prepared, I'm just saying it may be too late. But if you're watching this, there's nothing stopping you from going out tonight after watching this video and go buying a can of beans, to go buy a bag of rice, to go buy a couple cases of water. I say never give up to the end. Go out and get some food, water right now. And my biggest concern for people is, after just looking at at what we saw happening at Walmart and Costco over the weekend. If something did happen here and people could not get the food and water, guess what they're going to do? They're coming to your house. Yes. When Costco's out, when Walmart's out, people will come to your house. And this is why I'm so adamant about security. That's why I went and invested in brass this weekend, did some training last week, will be training this week, because security is of the utmost importance. It is asset number one. Next to walking close to God, your number one asset is security, because when the store shelves are empty, when the EBT checks aren't being delivered, people are coming to your house. That's just a fact. Article on CNBC, and I'm going to leave it right here on this article. What is the average credit limit here in America? Again, the consumer is not strong. The consumer is a sitting duck. And they're going to pay a massive price for the massive debt that they've acquired, for ignoring the warning signs, for financing a kitchen table for 6.5 years, for financing a car for 8 years. If you're one of these people, you're going to lose when this collapse hits America. There is no doubt about it. Americans have an average of $22,751 in credit available to them across all their credit cards. People have been writing me recently telling me that their credit lines have been decreased. And if that's happened to any of you, please comment down below. But I've had a handful of people write to me directly saying that their credit lines have been decreased. And it was just a couple months ago, 2-3 months ago, where people were writing me telling me that their credit lines were increased. They never even asked for that. And these people who are writing me are saying that they have an 800 or 850 FICA, perfect credit, and they're getting letters saying that their credit line has been decreased on their credit card. So that is very, very interesting. Let me know if that's happened to you. But look, the more debt you have, the better chance you're going to be a debt slave. Going into an economic collapse, carrying debt, you are just giving the central banks the power, the control, the authority. We are going to see the biggest wealth transfer in the world, and we are going to see a massive creation of more debt slaves than we already have. Look, 80% of this country is living paycheck to paycheck. This next crash, there are going to be very, very few Americans that are going to be what we consider middle class. Very, very few. We are creating a future of debt slaves. And I'm making these videos to hopefully help you prevent from becoming a debt slave. Look, get your debts paid off, continue preparations. And for the people, as I said earlier, who haven't prepared, it may already be too late. But that doesn't mean you can't go out tonight and start preparing. At least you'll have some preparation, and something is better than nothing. I'm going to leave it there this evening. A wild, wild ride on Wall Street today. We'll see what happens tomorrow, but you are witnessing massive, historical manipulation, unlike the world has ever seen before. And watching that manipulation should be the warning sign that this whole thing is fake, that this whole thing is artificial. It's all propped up. And the minute they lose control, you're going to be wiped out. If you're just holding paper, if you're holding debt, this is why it's so important to make sure you have an emergency fund. Don't be one of these people that shops at Ashley Furniture and finances a kitchen table for 6.5 years. Don't be that person that's financing a car for 8 years. 8 years to impress his relatives, to impress people he doesn't even like. Don't be one of these people that has to go on social media and that has to impress people with $100 steak dinner. Take that $100, go buy some silver, go buy some gold today, go buy some beans, some rice, and most of all, make sure that you're buying security because you may need it. Dark times are coming. There's no doubt about it. The manipulation is the biggest bellwether you have. It is warning you that everything out here is fake. But reality is coming. And when it comes, there's going to be a lot of people wiped out. Reality is taking no prisoners. People are going to get wiped out. Rich, poor, and everything in between. The person with the least amount of debt, holding assets, holding cash, holding silver, gold, has preparations, has diversity, they're the ones that are going to weather the storm. They're the ones that are going to survive. Have a wonderful night. Have a great evening. Talk to every one of you very soon.